What's good, everybody? Welcome to the All Bark Podcast. It's me, Robo, and Brendan here. Today, we're going over the NBA playoffs, giving our playoff predictions. Starting off with the play-in. So we've already had a couple of the play-in games start already. We've had the Warriors go down to the Kings. So the Kings will be playing the Pelicans for the chance to play the Thunder in the first round. And the Lakers beat those Pelicans to play the Nuggets as well in the 2-7 matchup. And then over in the East, we have the Miami Heat playing against the Chicago Bulls, who took out the Atlanta Hawks. Winner of that game is going to play the Celtics. And then the 76ers beat the Heat, so they'll play the Knicks in the first round. But let's go ahead and start with our predictions for those play-in games. Starting off with the East, we have the Heat taking on the Bulls for a chance to play the Celtics. Jimmy Butler is out for this game. I don't know the status of Terry Rozier. I know he missed last game. I would expect him to play with Jimmy out. But I do think the Heat overall do have enough talent to be able to get past the Bulls. So I think they'll be the ones taking on the Celtics. And then in the West, I think the Kings are going to be the Pelicans. Zion being out is just huge for the Pelicans, crushing blow, going from the 7th seed to probably out of the playoffs. So I think the Kings are going to be taking on the Thunder, and then I'll pass it over to you for your play-in predictions.
Yeah, just a disclaimer before I get absolutely roasted for anything I say. Anything I paid attention to this year was fantasy related, so it had not much to do with games, but this is usually when I start paying attention to the NBA. But anyway, I'm going to go with the Heat. I'm going to say Terry Rozier does play with Jimmy out. I think he can control the game. If he has a poor performance as well as Hero, then, obviously they could lose. But regardless, I don't think the winner of this really matters going against Boston. The West game with the Kings and the Pelicans, I think that game actually does matter because you have a team like the Kings who were a 3 seed a couple years ago. They have some experience, and they definitely could take down a team like the Thunder. I think they have a better chance than the Pelicans. But with Zion out, I'm going to go with the Kings here.
All right, now moving on to the Celtics and Heat. First round series, 1 versus 8. Like Brendan said, the Heat game probably doesn't matter much because the Celtics should win this series. We've seen 1 and 8 seed matchup upsets in the past, but this doesn't seem like the one. The Celtics were the best team all season with the record, obviously. And they've got a lot of depth, adding in Porzingis and Drew Holiday this year. I don't think the Heat stand much of a chance, especially with Jimmy Butler slated to miss several weeks. So if they even do win that game, I just don't see how they could win it any more than 1 or 2 games without Jimmy Butler, if any at all. Personally, I'm going to take the Celtics in 4. I think this will be a pretty easy series for them without Jimmy.
I'm also going to take Boston in 4, just pretty much mirroring everything that you said. Boston is probably the biggest powerhouse right now in the playoffs, and they are probably going against the worst team out of everybody left, regardless of who wins. So I think Boston can handle them in 4 pretty easily.
Moving on next, we'll go to the 4 versus 5 matchup, the Cavs and Magic. A lot of people don't want to watch this series. It's not as entertaining. It's super defensive, but I think this will be a pretty fun series to watch. I think it's going to go 6 or 7, regardless of who wins the series. We're going to see a lot of defense in this series. Magic offense is solid, but not great, but their defense is one of the best in the league. Same goes for the Cavs. A lot of front court depth as well. Personally, I think the Cavs win this series because of their experience. I could definitely see the Magic winning it with the way that they play defense, like I said. But I think the experience is going to matter here. I think Donovan Mitchell really needs to play well, and they have a lot of pressure on them with the news that Donovan Mitchell might be looking out if they fall short again this time around, especially in the first round. So I think as a whole, the Cavs really have to play well just for their future. But I think that experience will come in here. Mitchell should have a great series. I do think the Cavs will win this series. I'm going to take them in 6.
So, as you'll kind of notice throughout my predictions, I have slightly predicted after the Golden State game that I think that the new era is about to hit us. So, there are a lot of young future or current superstars in the playoffs right now that I think have a chance to really step up and change the tides of this league. So, I'm going to go Magic in 7. I think we're going to see Apollo breakout series. We'll see how it goes. I think, like Robo said, it's going to be very defensive. And I think the Magic actually can and have the ability to stop some of the Cavs' main scorers, including Mitchell. So I'm actually really interested in this series. I've been a big fan of the Magic for the last year and a half now. And I think Paolo and Franz are actually going to help secure this victory.
Moving on now to the 3 versus 6, the Milwaukee Bucks against the Indiana Pacers. It looks like Giannis might miss a game or two in this series. He could always play game one. I did just see on Twitter they were talking about Patrick Beverley on his podcast said that they may be without him for a game or two. That could change the series, especially if he were to miss multiple games. But I do feel like he knows the stakes of this season for him and Dame, and I think that he'll end up playing. I think that's going to matter a lot, and I think the Bucks will win this series. I think it'll be in 7, though. I think he misses the first 2. I'm not a big fan of this Bucks team this year, especially I know the reasons why they moved on from Griffin, but Doc hasn't done the greatest job of gelling the team together and everything. And I think this Bucks team is on upset alert, but I think they'll escape the series in 7 games, winning that last game in Milwaukee.
Yeah, so I'm also leaning Milwaukee here, and I'm gonna take him in 7 as well. I don't know if Giannis misses or not. I still think this could be a good opportunity, and I know Dame has had a really, really weird year. The Bucks are definitely a lot worse than what we thought they were going to be with adding Dame. But I think this is a good chance for Dame to kind of shift the narrative in Milwaukee, especially if Giannis is out, and if he can kind of help lead the charge to getting them in the second round with a healthy Giannis or a Giannis who can play every game. I think that's going to be a big step for Milwaukee as well as Dame there. So I'm going to go Milwaukee in 7. I'm not the biggest fan of the Pacers either. I do love Halliburton, but I know he's kind of been a little on and off since he got hurt a couple months ago. So I'm actually interested to see what happens in this because, again, like I said, this could be another time where Halliburton steps up, wins a series, and you're talking 4 or 5 young superstars in this league are starting to move into the second round of the playoffs, and there's going to be a lot of narratives in that. But I'm going to go Milwaukee for now.
And then the last series in the first round for the East, Knicks 76ers. This one's a really interesting one. I think a lot of people are going to lean towards an upset here because of the star power of Joel Embiid. I think Embiid could easily beat the Knicks here. Obviously, no Randle. They've been pretty good without Julius Randle, but not having him to help rely on with Brunson could have some sort of an impact up against Joel Embiid. That's really what it's going to come down to is if the Knicks can limit Joel or if they can limit everybody around him, like Maxey. If Maxey and Embiid are both going off, it could be really tough for them. I do think the Knicks will win the series. They've been so good without Randle, especially with OG Anunoby in the lineup. I think they'll win this one. I'm going to go in 7 games, though. I think this is another one of those toss-up series. But I think the Knicks will clutch it down in New York. Brunson will go for one of those vintage games later on in the series, which will really help them move on to the second round and potentially in the future.
So I know Brunson isn't younger, but this is kind of another
up-and-coming superstar, yeah.
He's still pretty in the beginning of his prime, I would say. So this is another situation where you got Brunson who could have a big narrative of helping the Knicks get to the second round. This is more of a biased prediction. I'm going to go the 76ers in 6 games. I think Embiid could possibly be the best player in the NBA when healthy. So if he's able to at least give 90%, I think they have a really good chance, especially with no Randle. It'll be really interesting to see how they defend Embiid. I'm going to go 76ers in 6. I'm not the biggest fan of the Knicks. I know they have improved a lot this year, but I think Embiid's availability will definitely depend and play a big factor in the series.
Okay, now moving on to the West. We'll start up top with the Thunder. We both, I believe, had the Kings beating the Pelicans, so we'll go Thunder Kings. I think this is a tough situation for the Thunder because the Kings have experience in the playoffs last year. Obviously didn't go their way against the Warriors. It's a tough series for the Thunder, but I do think it was a good thing avoiding the Lakers. The Lakers winning, obviously, to move on to face the Nuggets. I think the Lakers would have been a tougher matchup. Having to face LeBron, I know the Lakers beat him a few times in the regular season as well. I'm going to go with the Thunder here. I think Mark Dagnall is one of the best coaches in the league, if not the best coach in the league. They just have a lot of great young talent, a lot of core pieces as well, especially a bench that's been producing all year long. And I think that's going to matter in this series. I think they just match up pretty well here, and I don't see this being the big upset of the playoffs. So I think the Thunder are going to win the series in 6 games.
I was wondering about your games because I actually have the Thunder in 7. I agree. I think they match up very well. And really this could be all determined on experience. So kind of like what I said earlier. But obviously I'm like one of the biggest Chet fans in the world. Have been for like 6 years now. So obviously I'm going to go Thunder in 7. I think they can definitely hold off the Kings. And I think this would be a massive, massive confidence boost for those young guys moving forward. Um, Obviously, we'll see what happens in the second round, but if they can at least get one series win this year, being the 1 seed, obviously you want to go farther, but if they get one series win and look pretty good doing it, I think that would be a massive win for the Thunder this year.
Now moving on to the 4 and 5 matchup, the Clippers and Mavericks. Kawhi's dealing with some soreness, so we'll see how that goes with him. But I think that's going to matter in this series. I think the Mavericks are going to be able to score at will pretty much. It really just comes down to how well Kawhi and Harden can play in this series. Winner of the series is going to give the Thunder problems no matter what in the second round. Whether they win the series or not, I think that one is going to go 6 or 7 games. And I think this one does too. I think the Mavericks are probably going to win this series, in my opinion, in 7 games. But I can see this being going either way, and it's probably the series I'm most excited for in the playoffs.
So, again, my 2 favorite players are Chet and Harden. I have been absolutely crushed by Harden year in and year out. So, obviously, I would love nothing more than the Clippers to make it all the way and win it. So, in this series, I'm actually going to take Clippers in 6. Now, this also depends on Kawhi's health, Harden's health. But I think offensively, both teams are pretty well matched. I think the Mavs actually could even be a little bit better. But I think the difference between these two teams is going to be defensively. And I'm not sure if the Mavs can play defense to the level of the Clippers. Harden has never been a number 3. So even when he was with the Nets, I believe KD was injured or Kyrie was hurt. I don't think they ever had all 3, maybe one game. But it'll be interesting to see how Harden can contribute to Kawhi and Paul George. So I'm interested in this series. I think this might be the best first-round series. I'm going to go Clippers in 6.
And now moving on to the 3 versus 6 matchup, the Wolves hosting the Suns. This is another one of those series that could be a toss-up. I think a lot of the series in the West are better than the East, but this would probably be the second best in my opinion. The Suns, I think they swept the Wolves regular season 3-0. But as we've seen, that doesn't always matter in the playoffs. But this is another one of those things where experience could matter, or we could see that youth movement with Ant taking over. I think the Wolves are the better team, but the Suns' star power in the playoffs, when you shorten up the rotations, could be a big difference. I think if the Suns are able to get one of the first 2 and kind of take home court advantage, winning 3 and 4, it's going to be really tough for the Wolves to climb out of that. I think this one's going to go 7. And it comes down to if the Suns are able to pull off a road victory for Game 7. And I think just with KD and Booker, the way Booker shoots the ball in the playoffs, I think that's going to matter. And I think they're going to take this one in 7 games. But I can see this going either way.
Yeah, I'm going to go actually opposite of you. And this was probably the hardest one for me to pick just because it's so hard for me to pick against KD and Book. But honestly, and I've been very wrong on him, especially early in his career. I didn't think Ant was as good as he is. I actually think Ant might become the best player in the NBA within the next 4 years. Like, he has that high of a ceiling to me. And if not, at least a top 10 guy, possibly a top 5. I think Gobert, defensively, we'll see how he can impact in the paint. And then, Cat, I know, has, from what I've seen, had a better year this year than he has the last 2, or since whenever they got Gobert. But I'm interested in this series. All of these West series are like phenomenal. I'm going to take Wolves in 7, but honestly, I could see the Suns taking this. I could see either team winning in any amount of games, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, these teams are really close to me as well.
Yeah, agreed. I kind of agree with your Ant take. I think he does have a chance to be the best player in the world in like 3-4 years when a lot of the guys to the top of are exiting their prime or have retired. But he just keeps getting better every year, and he just keeps elevating his game. The athleticism is crazy. He can play defense too. He plays defense,
that's the
which is a big
difference
thing. I think
guys,
that's like I think he's near the same level as like a Jason Tatum, but I think his defensive ability could make him stand out in the future. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the last series in the West for the first round, Nuggets Lakers. This is another one. I'm a big LeBron fan. Always have been. I think this is a big series for him. It doesn't really matter like completely in the big picture of things, but if he's able to win this one, he could go in for a big run. At 39 years old, going on a big run in the playoffs like this would just be ridiculous. However, I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Nuggets are just too good. I think this will be a good series. I think the Lakers will get at least a game or two, and I have the Nuggets taking this one in 6.
Before I even give my prediction, just talking about LeBron, I kind of want to throw out a scenario, and this isn't even like fully what I have or have even predicted already. But I mean, imagine the conversation for LeBron and the GOAT talk. If LeBron gets through the Nuggets, gets through KD and the Suns, gets through Kawhi, Harden, and Paul George and the Clippers, and then gets through a team like Boston in the finals,
It'd be one of the greatest runs ever.
That's probably the toughest route to a championship of all time. And if he's able to do that at 39 and lead the team, I mean, at that point, the argument would be really, really tough to even make against LeBron. Like, at that point, at least you got to do a 1A, 1B, or even just put him on an even playing field. But I think that narrative would be unbelievable. But I think the Nuggets are just too good. Jokic, to me, is still... he's been probably the best player in the world for the last 3 or 4. I think this will be year 4, in my opinion. He won the 2 MVPs. Should have won, I thought, over Embiid, but and then possibly could win again this year. I'm going to go Nuggets. I think they're actually even improved from the last couple of years as a team. And I'm going to go in 6. I think the Lakers are going to give them a tough fight, but it's going to be tough coming down to the end of each game to really close it out for the Lakers.
So now we'll move on to round 2. We'll start back in the East. I have Celtics Cavs. I think the Celtics are going to beat the Cavs probably in 4 games, maybe 5. I can see the Cavs winning 1. But regardless of who wins that Cavs Magic series, I think the Celtics are just much better. They'll be able to combat the level of defense that both teams can play. And I think this would be another big series for the Cavs' future that they just wouldn't be able to really compete as much in. So I think the Celtics will win that series in 4 over the Cavs, 5 at the most. And then the Cavs will have a lot of questions to make in the offseason, as well as Donovan Mitchell for his own future.
So I had Boston and the Magic, and I actually also have Boston in 5 in this series as well. You got guys like Tatum and Brown who are a little bit older than the Magic core, but I would love to see the Magic core put up at least 2 games against them. I think that would actually be a huge confidence boost moving forward for them, but I just think Boston's too good, and I'm going to take them in 5. I think they're just a powerhouse this year.
Next up in the second round, I had the Bucks and Knicks. That's right. This would be another really good series if Giannis is healthy, obviously, and if Dame is playing well. When Dame is off, the dynamic of the Bucks just isn't the same, and I think that's really going to matter in a series like this, which they definitely have the power to be able to win. I think this is would be a big series for the Knicks as well. I think they have enough to be able to beat a team like the Bucks if the Bucks aren't on, which they haven't been for quite a while this season. So I'm going to take the Knicks to win this series. I'm going to go in 6 games. Just because I don't think Giannis is going to be at full strength. And that Dame just doesn't seem the same this season as in before. I don't think he's washed necessarily, but I think it just hasn't really worked out fully in this first year with the Bucks. I definitely see them winning the series, but I'm just going to take the Knicks in 6.
So for me, I have the 76ers here as the 7th seed and the Bucks. And I'm going to assume a fully healthy Giannis, a fully healthy Embiid. And I'm going to go the Bucks are up 3-1 and they blow it because of Doc Rivers. And I'm going to say the 76ers win in 7 just for fun. And I think Embiid's the best player in that series. And I actually think, honestly, even if Embiid can play out of his mind in that series, I think it's going to take another player to match a Dame. And so I'm going to say Maxi's going to have a big series there. I'm going to go with the 76ers.
All right, now in the West, I had the Thunder taking on the Mavericks. This would be an incredible series, in my opinion. As a lot of them are. This playoffs could be a crazy one. But I think the Mavericks take this series in 7 games just because of that experience. I think regardless of the outcome, it's a success for the Thunder if they get there. And they definitely have enough to win it. I mean, they play great basketball, and the Mavericks don't really have the best defense. But I think Luka's experience will be able to match the level of talent that SGA has. I mean, they're both top 5 players in the world, arguably. I think the Mavericks' style is just really hard to beat, especially when they're on. And, I mean, when Luka and Kyrie are almost never off. So I think that'd be a really tough series for the Thunder. And I think the Mavericks would use that experience to help propel them into the Western Conference Finals.
So I have the Thunder and the Clippers. I'm going to go ahead and actually give the Clippers the series here. I'm going to say in 6. I think here is where the Thunder really lack the experience to move on to a conference finals. And that's obviously if Kawhi is healthy. I think actually if Kawhi did not play in the series or Harden didn't play in the series, it would actually be a lot more closer. And I think the Thunder could win that series. But I'm gonna say everybody's healthy. I'm gonna go Clippers in 6.
Okay, moving on to the last game in the second round. I have the Suns taking on the Nuggets. KD versus Jokic would be a big thing, obviously, but I just think the Suns really lack depth, and I know that their depth is better than people have talked about. Obviously, guys like Grayson Allen, some of the best shooters in the world. They have pieces. Obviously, Nurkic at center is very good, but I just think the overall depth of their team is at some point going to catch up with them. When you come into playoffs, if you have to go through such a tough series like the Wolves that could go 6 or 7 games, then you come into the Nuggets series with your full team having to play. You're starting having to play 40 plus minutes a night. At some point, it's really going to hurt you, especially a team like the Nuggets and in Denver, obviously with the elevation there. I think that catches up to them, and I think the Nuggets take that series in 6 as Jokic continues to dominate and gets on to the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, so I have the Wolves and the Nuggets here. And I kind of debated on how many games I was going to go, but I'm going to go Nuggets in 5. I think this is where, the Wolves are coming off a really hard-fought 7-game series. The Nuggets should have another extra day of rest, and I think that the Wolves don't really match up to the Nugs very well. I actually think Ant could take this to 6, possibly 7, but I also personally think the Nuggets might be the best team in the league right now, so I'm just going to take them in 5. I think that they're tough. I think the Lakers are going to be a tougher matchup than the Wolves for the Nuggets.
Okay, back to the East. We'll go with the Eastern Conference Finals. I have the Celtics and Knicks. Celtics-Knicks would be a fun series, in my opinion, but I think the Celtics this is a dream draw for them, honestly. I think the Knicks are a great team, but when you compare them to a team like the Celtics with the way they've played basketball all season, how they can defend, the number of guys they have, the depth, I think it's really tough for the Knicks to be able to get more than a game or two in this series. So I'll go Celtics in 6.
So I have Boston and the 76ers in a rematch. I also have Boston in 6 here. Pretty funny, actually, seeing the 76ers are back in the conference finals, and I also have James Harden predicted on the other side. But at the end of the day, I think at this point, Embiid's played through 2 series now. I think a little wear and tear is going to start coming. He's going to be a little fatigued, and I think Boston is going to be able to kind of run away with this. And even if the 76ers can take 2, I think Boston is just going to overpower them. They're going to have more rest. I'm predicting less games leading up to this, and I think that they're in a pretty good spot going into the NBA championship.
Yeah, now over to the Western Conference Finals. I have the 5-seeded Mavericks and the 2-seed Nuggets. This would be a really tough series for Luka. I think it would be really fun to watch. Obviously, Luka versus Jokic have a nice European battle there. The Mavericks have enough offense to be able to compete with the Nuggets, but when it comes down to their level of defense, going up against the gauntlet of Jokic, Murray, Aaron Gordon, MPJ, KCP, all the bench shooters they have, and the Nuggets, they play defense. Jokic has been a much improved defender this year. I think it's a really tough series for the Mavericks to win. I think they can get a game or two, but I think the Nuggets will end up winning this one in 6 games. Too much star power with Jokic. Like you said, I think he's the best player in the world and has been for a while. He's proven that, and I think that continues this playoffs, and I think they go ahead and advance to the finals to take on the Celtics.
I have the Clippers and the Nuggets. I have this going to 7. I think a lot of this for both sides could be determined by health. But I'm going to go with the Nuggets here as much as I'm going to be depressed if this happens and they go to 7 when Harden loses again, misses another finals. I just think the Nuggets are I would be shocked to see any of these teams beat them going into the finals if the Nuggets are fully healthy. And that's the situation even for Boston. I think anybody would be shocked to see Boston not make the finals this year, especially with how easy the East looks on paper.
Yeah.
But my finals is gonna end up being the Nuggets and Boston.
All right, moving on to the finals, we both have Celtics Nuggets. This, in my opinion, would be one of the best finals we've seen in a long time. Obviously, there's been some great final series, but I think this would be the true 2 best teams in the league going at it. Both teams with depth, both teams with star power. They both can defend. Obviously, have superstars on their team like Tatum, Jokic, and then obviously star players like Jamal Murray, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Michael Porter Jr. A lot of depth, a lot of shooting. I think this would make for a phenomenal series. I think this would go 7, regardless of the winner. I think this would be a really fun series. But I think Game 7 in Boston would be one of the best games we watched in a while. I think the Nuggets have more than enough to win that game. But in Boston, with everything the Celtics, all the experience they have in the playoffs, of losing in the playoffs, adding in Drew and Porzingis into the mix, and the emergence of Derek White, I think this would be their time to be able to beat the Nuggets and avoid the two-peat. So I'm going to take the Celtics in 7 games over the Nuggets.
It feels like the Nuggets and Boston have played in the finals before, but I think it's just because everybody has predicted them to play in the finals last couple of years.
Yeah.
So if we can finally get this matchup, which obviously we still have to get there, it would be really fun to see. I think it would actually probably compete with one of the higher viewed finals in a couple of years, because it seems like we haven't really got like a really, really good one in a while since the LeBron. I also have this game going 7, and I guess I didn't really realize it, but you were saying it would end in Boston. It would probably, I mean, that crowd's going to be crazy in Game 7 if that happened. I'm still going to go Nuggets here. I personally think if Jokic is playing, I think he's got the edge. But honestly, I could see this going either way. I think these are the 2 best teams in the NBA currently. You know, obviously things are going to happen in the playoffs, injuries are going to happen, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But on paper, I think this would be the matchup to see. So, yeah, I have the Nuggets as your 2024 NBA champions, and I think it would be really, really tight if this was the matchup.
All right, that's it for the podcast. Obviously, those are our NBA playoff predictions. I'll go ahead and put up a graphic after of both of our brackets, so it's easier to see if anybody doesn't want to hear us talk and just wants to see the predictions. I'll put it at the end. That's it for this video. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.